So here we are at the Panasonic event for the new OLED TV, and I caught up with the colorist who has been helping to develop this TV. That's Stefan Sundberg.
So I'm in the post-production world, and we work on a large market share of movies, television shows, and commercials. And we're a color finish house, so our specialty is coloring, and obviously how things look is what we do. And so over the years, as I said earlier, it's sort of, I was always sort of surprised that manufacturers never looked to us as to partner and help in their development of the products that we use on a daily basis. So Panasonic and I came to an understanding a few years ago where we decided to work together and try and help each other create one of the best consumer televisions out there. And I think along with Dolby, we've all done a fantastic job, and there's a terrific consumer product there that represents, for the most part, what we intend, not only as colorists, but as a reflection of what the creative content creators wanted initially when they came to us in the first place to work on their content.
It's something that we've preached for almost a decade now, is to set your TV up, have the TV calibrated so it hits the industry standard, so you're at least seeing something that represents a little bit of what the creative intent is. Do you think you're now there with consumer sets, that you're actually seeing what you see in your grading suite you see on a consumer TV?
Yeah, I think actually we're very close. I mean, I have an X300 Sony professional monitor in my room, which is $40,000. And I also have one of these monitors, which is, a fraction of the cost. And to the average person that comes in my room, even the trained eye, it's hard to discern the difference. And that's saying a lot, because consumer monitors have never, we used to always say, this consumer monitor is here to see you what a shitty representation is, or sorry to use that word, but not so good representation is of your finished product. And now it's so nice to be able to say, look how beautiful the home version, the consumer version of this will look if you have a monitor like this.
Are you brand agnostic, or are you a Panasonic evangelist?
Like I said, I'm platform agnostic, and I do have an allegiance to Panasonic in a way for these consumer monitors, because I've helped, they've been very receptive to our feedback. So a lot of our hours and hours and weeks of hard work have gone into making this product better. Would I do that for other manufacturers? Of course. I mean, we're trying to have the whole world see a better representation of what we do. So from that perspective, yes, we're supportive of everybody, but right now we're working with Panasonic.
How important do you think OLED technology is in the consumer TVs? Do you think that technology is the technology that has pushed picture quality forward?
Well, for now it is. It's a white OLED actually in these monitors, and I think so far it's given us the best sort of representation of our creative intent, a wider field of vision. You can go almost at any angle on this new monitor that they have and see a really accurate representation. So it's a little trickier because of the manufacturing process. You have to sort of pick the right monitors that exhibit the best specifications when you're making the actual product, so therefore they're a little more expensive. But yes, for now it's a fantastic representation.
So if someone's watching this video on YouTube and they're wondering what it is that you're actually talking about, what is it that they can get from a TV? When you say accurate, when you say creator's intent, exactly what is that?
I think, so for a movie like Star is Born, I think when they look at the version that I colored for the home video market on this monitor with the setting that we've helped develop, I think the consumer is going to see exactly what Bradley Cooper and the DP and the other people involved in the creative process intended. And that's exactly what we have strived for, my whole career, and that's what Company 3 is all about. We're trying to effectively have the most creative flexibility and represent in all mediums what the creative intent is, no matter what, like I said earlier, platform agnostic.
Now, final question, and it is a bit of a tricky one. Most people, when they buy the TV, they flick through the picture modes and they ignore the movie mode or the THX mode or the
Cinema.
ISF mode. They ignore that because it looks dull, it looks pale, it looks washed out. What would you say to a consumer who buys a new TV and shoves it into dynamic mode with smoothing switched on and all the rest of it?
Well, again, the smooth motion is a big no-no in our world, and Panasonic doesn't activate that when you take it out of the box, which I think is a smart move. And secondly, I think the high dynamic range format that's sort of sweeping the world now. It's certainly not out there in a robust way yet, but it will be. I think that format itself will lend itself to better representation of the creative intent, because you can't, in the SDR format right now, those different settings that you mentioned do sort of creatively alter the image quite drastically, quite significantly. In HDR, I think there's a more specific and precise way to represent that, especially with the Dolby Vision, with the Panasonic monitor. So I think there's less room for error there and interpretation. So I think our higher, wider color gamut formats will help solve that issue.
And finally, some manufacturers out there, they're introducing technologies that change SDR into HDR and all sorts of different picture processing. What would your message be to those manufacturers?
Well, up-resing stuff is sort of par for the course, and people it's sort of a marketing ploy in a way to sell different levels and different a different cost basis for their product. But I would always say try to get the original content in its purest format, which should be a HDR version of the movie. That's if HDR is done right, it's one of the most beautiful things out there. The most recent movie, again, that's causing quite a buzz is A Star Is Born. I've done a lot of Wonder Woman, Star Wars, Force Awakens. I do 25 to 30 movies a year, so there's a lot of stuff that I worked on that I'm super proud of. A lot of stuff that's coming out this year and next year, some very large projects and some very small projects. We do a lot of Sundance films, I think I'm very proud of the colorists and all the people that work at Company 3, because I think we do the best color work in the world. So anything that has a Company 3 name on it with a Company 3 artist, I'm proud of, and I think you'll see it in its purest form when you watch our work.
And one question I forgot to ask you, but I think it's important. When you go from the cinema to the home formats, in the past you had to regrade for 709 for HD and so on. With HDR, with the wide colour gamut and all the rest of it, and the digital cinema packages you put together now, is there as much work between what you do in the cinema and what's seen at home?
Actually, it is, and it's even more important, because an HDR not done well is something that you're not very pleased to look at. It's not very pleasing to look at. And I think this business of coloring is quite a tricky process, and you can't do it quickly, and you need to have experience. And I think when you have a process that has such a wide dynamic range, you can get into a lot of trouble. So, to be honest, I think you got to be very careful, and we have to be careful as an industry and as artists to make sure we're doing what the creatives intend.
Well, Happy New Year, and thank you very much for your time.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.